Is this where you put in Chinese opera music in post?
No, we're not there yet. But
That's your cat, man.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Lu. You're listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. Make sure you find Hello and Welcome wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe. Please rate and review the show. Also, please keep commenting, liking, subscribing to our channel on YouTube. The more engagements our videos get, the more YouTube knows to push our content towards Raptor fans. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Hello Welcome Pod. I'm joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. What's going on, Alex, man? Have you recovered from attending Glizzy Mania?
Yeah, what's going on, Shorty? It was really cool this weekend. Hitting up Glizzle Mania. Shouts to Chef Kellen, had invited me there, and got to try a lot of different types of hot dogs, including a durian dog from our friend Craig Wong from Patois. So I think I'll take a week off Glizzy's. Is what's gonna happen now.
Damn, you're gonna starve, man.
I love how the impression people have is I'm just on a Glizzy diet all the time, daily.
You're a Glizzy gobbler. You're a certified Glizzy gobbler. For sure.
I am a certified Glizzy file. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was your weekend, my brother? Did you run into stands and force them to subscribe, or what's going on?
Once again, I played against a stand at Score FC, so that's a bit awkward. Yeah. Also,
nice.
I invented a new move on the soccer pitch. So
This doesn't seem possible, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
As people know, on Fridays I play soccer. And by people I mean you and the rest of the people on my team. There was one play where it was me and my other defender on my team trying to recover against one guy who was really quick. So he kind of got past me a little bit, but the attacker's touch took him too forward, and my teammate was able to come by and help sweep. So my teammate had the ball, but he was still pressing it. The attacker was still pressing, and I'm sort of in the play. And I realized that I couldn't really be open for the pass to relieve the pressure, but I could run over and set a screen.
Oh,
This is very bang bang. So I ended up I ran over just to impede and clip the attacker.
Yeah.
Not like bodying him out the way or anything, but I legit set a screen so that he was like, a little bit more behind, and my defender, my partner could run past and make a great pass. But
wow.
Yeah, no, the kid literally got up and he's like, "Yo, is this motherfucker setting screens out here?"
This is
This
probably
is my Rudy Gobert moment, man. It's nasty.
This is probably what Joe Mazzulla and Pep Guardiola were like discussing, like before Game 1 of the finals, like how to cross over between the beautiful game and the other beautiful game. Yeah.
No, I'm disgusted with myself, but also I'm like secretly I'm actually quite delighted.
Yeah. Shouts to a friend of the program, Tom Henry as well. I got to attend his live
yeah.
recording of his second comedy album on Friday. I was like, "Hey Tom, you listening to our pod?" He's like, "Nah, man, the Raptors suck." So I'm like,
you know what?
But he is gonna get back in support.
You know what? That is the feedback we get quite a bit, and
that is the challenge right now. Yeah,
that's the main challenge. The Raptors being asked, but
Yeah.
we'll force our way to talk to Raptors even when they're bad.
We got lots of Force Raptors topics today, and then we're going to chat a little bit about Team Canada. So draft is coming up this week. I know the city's buzzing with excitement with the Raptors holding the 19th and 31st pick. It's all anybody can just talk about right now in the city. And Rich Paul this week was asked about Bronny, who is one of the main characters of this draft, and teams have been unable to secure workouts. They have to enter raffles for this. And only the Lakers and Suns have been able to secure workouts with Bronny. Rich Paul, though, told ESPN's Jonathan Givony that that's by design. He added, quote, "There are other teams that love Bronny. For example, Minnesota, Dallas, Toronto. If it's not going to be the Lakers, it'll be someone else." And then he went on to say, "Masai loves him. They could take him without even seeing him at 31st. Workouts aren't everything for these teams." What do you make of Rich Paul's art of war strategy with getting Bronny drafted?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I don't feel like a lot of other agents are out here giving like public quotes about, yes, we don't care about workouts, and yes, we're exclusively holding my player to a workout in these two cities for this and this reason. Most people just like, hold them out behind the scenes. I think the other part is just like, I mean, I think a workout is pretty important for the Raptors. Like, we know the Raptors went to the Clutch Pro Day, right? Apparently for Clutch right now, there's a lot of the Clutch rookies, and they're all living in the same house together. It's kind of like I don't know if you've seen this video. Yeah, it's basically exactly like a reality show, like a Big Brother situation. You know, they're all just in this house together. The Clutch prospects, including Bronny. But yeah, like. I don't fully buy this. I really don't. I mean, like, I think that the Raptors certainly could use a backup point guard, and they could use some defense. And I think the idea of Bronny is that he could be a 3-and-D point guard. Obviously, he had a down year in college, but he also had cardiac arrest. He's LeBron's son. Everyone knows the whole story with Bronny at this point. But like, I don't know. I just don't quite buy this. I'm sorry. Like, I appreciate Rich Paul coming out and saying this. But again, like the fact that he's restricted the workouts of those two teams seems to suggest that he would like his client to go to one of those two teams.
Yeah, and for me, it just so happens, the Raptors hold the first pick of the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And is this just Rich Paul signaling to teams in the first round that they should take Bronny, otherwise he's going to be off the board, at the start of the second round? Like, I feel like that might just be his like strategy. Like, I'm not like you. I'm not reading too much into this.
Well, I mean, that's part of it for sure, but I think the bigger part is like, okay, if you do draft Bronny, if you end up being the team that ends up taking him, are you going to have to face questions about it all the time? Like, if he doesn't play in the rotation day one, it might be like, okay, it's a rookie, he's trying to get in, but like after midway through the season, there's just going to be this constant media attention on them, and it's going to be a storyline, and they're going to ask all the players about it. They're going to ask the coach about it incessantly. Like, so if you are going to be a team that even wants to take a chance on Bronny, let's say the Raptors want to take a chance on Bronny, you're pretty much going to have to deal with this all the time. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, I mean, obviously it's the draft, so it's more relevant now, but I think for a team like the Raptors, like, we're pretty, I don't know, we don't really make those kind of buzzy moves. You know what I mean? Like, when the Raptors are in the middle of like a controversy, it's like not something that they invited usually, like they try to sidestep these things. So, I think that's another factor. And I think that's a little bit unfair, really. Like, when you think about it, like for Bronny, like, he's just a kid. He's looking to get into the NBA, and no one's really going to assess him like fairly. Right. And so I don't know if he's asked for any of this, but, I don't know. I just ultimately don't buy it. It just doesn't really feel like a Raptors move. You know what I mean? Like, if he were closer to LeBron's size, I think you might look more at the upside, but he's like pretty much strictly a point guard. So, and he doesn't really do that much playmaking as a point guard. So, I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have like prospect value or upside or anything like that, but I think you would need another team more desperate for the limelight than Toronto.
Yeah. Now, along with the draft, free agency has, kind of started because, at the end of the finals, teams were able to start negotiating, and we know all the, illegal activities that happen, but behind the scenes. So maybe we'll call this period like pre-agency or something like that. But a couple of moves that have happened, wanted to run through these with you, and then we're going to find every Raptors related angle possible.
Oh, that's what we do.
To do this. Yeah, this is what we do. We talk. So, big trade this week. Alex Caruso is going to OKC in exchange for Josh Giddey. This was a 1-for-1 trade. Nice. Everybody was very surprised that the Bulls weren't able to rest at least Sam Presti's one of his 29 second-rounders that he has in his coffers. So first, I guess, two-part question for you. Do you agree that this was a terrible trade for the Bulls? And then from a Raptors angle, it seems like the Bulls could be finally rebuilding, having a fire sale. Are there players on the Bulls roster that you think might fit on the Raptors?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there are certain pieces, like I've always liked Ayo Dosunmu, for example. I know you didn't expect me to go there first.
I've always is that your Yam Mahimi?
It's the first Ayo that's not related to the Bear in Chicago, but like
season 3 next week.
Yo, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. No, but seriously, like I just don't. I think the more pertinent part for the Raptors is another team is looking to join, I guess, the Tankathon for 2025.
Oh God, we're doing this already. All right,
that draft is so good. There's so many players in that draft. I don't know if you've seen like the footage of like just the Duke workouts. It's just like here's it's just players from Duke playing against each other.
Yeah.
This is the college season. Doesn't even start for another like 4 months. But okay, sure. They're working out against each other. And on one side, you got Cooper Flag, who everyone already knows about at this point, knocking down a bunch of threes, which is like maybe the only knock in this game. And on the other side, there's like a 7'2" center who can shoot threes and like has like an 8-foot wingspan. And you're like, oh, and this is just Duke. So, yeah, I think Chicago is like obviously looking to tear it down, and we'll see. I mean, like they'll probably need to let DeMar walk in free agency or work out some sort of sign and trade. And Zach LaVine's been on the trade block for a while, and Nick Vucevic is Nick Vucevic, so he's not going to stick around much longer. He's like the new John Collins. I feel like he's going to be in trade rumors for the rest of his career. But
Nick Vucevic is definitely on the why is he still around All-Star team.
Oh, absolutely, man. He's the most random player who will drop 20 and 10 and no one will care. Like he's in that range because it doesn't affect winning. So in any case, like I think Chicago's looking to tear it down. I think this is where we had the conversation like last week about if you're Raptors, do you want to preemptively tank? Because it's going to be a lot more competitive to try to do that. I mean, you already have teams like Washington who are like completely down and down out. Detroit fired their head coach, but like I think it's not going to make a difference. This team is not winning more than the 20s in games next year, and so yeah, I mean, I think Chicago is at least pivoting to this direction. They obviously came in at it too late, but yeah, as for the trade itself, I don't know, man. Like, do you really want to be the team that's like, yes, let me take on Josh Giddey and let me put him as my franchise player in 2024? Like,
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
Doesn't play defense, doesn't have a 3-point shot, literally has a weird case. Why is he still around?
Yeah.
That one is super relevant. So,
oh, man.
No, but seriously, like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Bulls fans beloved.
Bulls fans might be the 30th fan base right now, just in terms of just like anger towards their team. Like, I actually can't think of a team that's more. I mean, you can point to the Pistons, you can point to the Wizards, but I feel like that's just like a general kind of malaise because they've been terrible for so long. But like the Bulls, it feels like there's a lot of anger right now directed towards their front office.
By the way, I think Warrior fans are top 5 right now too.
Yeah, that's just because we follow Andy Liu. Next up, Malik Monk signed a 4-year, $78 million deal to return to the Sacramento Kings. Some people were a little surprised at the annual salary coming in at under $20 million. Raptors related angle. So could we expect this to kind of set the market for maybe what Gary is going to get? If you compare him to Malik Monk, I would say Malik Monk is the more valuable player. Mm-hmm. So what does the market potentially look like for bringing Gary back?
I mean, I think everyone's a little surprised that Malik Monk took this little, right? Like he's been kind of underpaid his whole career, right? First off, he gets drafted to Charlotte, which okay, so he escapes Charlotte, takes a minimum with the Lakers, does really well, then goes to Sacramento, takes a shorter term contract, underpaid. I think he really, really performed above sort of the value that he was getting paid at in Sacramento the last couple of years, and then he takes this extension, which you probably could have gotten more than that, right? But maybe he's just like comfortable in a situation. Maybe he looked at Sacramento and he just sees a situation where he's thriving, he's flourishing. It's not like he's a guarantee to go somewhere else and dominate, although he is quite a good player. But yeah, it looks to me like he took a bit of a discount to stay. That's what it feels like to me, Whether that affects Gary's market, I don't know. I don't think the teams who are looking at both of those players and shopping in the same. You know what I mean? Like, Malik Monk is like you go to Yorkdale, and Gary is kind of more like you go a little bit down the road to SVP at Cartwright. Okay. Like, I'm not trying to be rude. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
I get it. Different levels, yeah.
Yeah, you might still be buying a
levels.
coat, or you might still be buying a pair of shoes, but, you're looking at 2 different stores type of thing.
You're looking at 4 Converses for $80.
What's a great deal?
Gary's going to get 4 for 80.
Where did you
basically.
see that flyer, man? I need that.
I saw it from you.
I need to combine my Umbro with my Converse.
A friend of the program, Pascal Siakam, agreed to a 4-year, $189.5 million extension with the Pacers. Mm-hmm. So this was essentially, I know we've talked about this even through last season. This was the price point that the Raptors never felt comfortable going to, in extension talks. with Pascal. And my only takeaway from this is, I don't want this to sound like a threat to the Raptors front office, but
what?
y'all better get something good for Bruce Brown this week.
Okay, man.
Because
Speaking of shopping at SVP, I mean the Bruce Brown sweepstakes. Definitely got some Bruce Browns at SVP, that's for sure.
I saw some Tim Hardaway Jr. and draft picks offers flowing around on the dark web yesterday. I'm just telling Masai and Bobby, man, like, don't make us revisit this Pascal trade because it's not looking good right now.
Yeah, I mean, we called it at the time. You know, like we called it at the time. Like I think that. First off, Pascal was willing to sign this exact same contract with the Raptors if it was extended or if it was offered as an extension. Obviously, I think the Raptors had until the end of 2023 to offer this exact same contract. I don't think he was holding on for 5. I think 4 would have been good. I don't think the Raptors put more than 3 ever on the table. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that everyone knew that this is the deal that Pascal was going to sign in free agency. And that's why the Pacers went out and got him, not only because it helped their run this year, and we've seen, obviously, Pascal, he did really well in the playoffs for them. Was he, like, consistently every single game like Luka Doncic? No, but also at the same time, he was really, really effective and really efficient in a lot of games. You know, and, yeah, I mean, like, this is pretty much agreed on when essentially the Raptors decided, like, yeah, we're not going to extend you, Pascal, so we're going to need to trade you right now. I just wish that they had reached that point earlier. It feels like a bit of a wasted year for everyone involved in a way. I mean, I guess the only winner here was Indiana because they got him midseason and he helped them a lot. Like, I don't think they get to the conference finals without Pascal, for example. Or even, quite frankly, even get to the playoffs proper because Tyrese had gotten hurt and he was really banged up. You know, Pascal's pretty important to a lot of that run in the second half of the season. But for the Raptors and for Pascal, I think they just kind of wasted time, right? Like, if the Raptors had decided, let's trade him in the offseason, you can go into this year, you could, you know, really, you know, freshly pivot your team around sort of the direction that you want to go, which was ultimately rebuild. You probably obviously need to resolve OG's situation too, but, you know, that ended up being fine anyway because RJ and everyone's happy with RJ quickly. But yeah, like we just kind of wasted a whole year, right? So at least for Pascal, he gets cashed out. I mean, he's a quality player. He was always going to be deserving of this max contract. But yeah, I think there's always going to be a little bit of frustration of like, why did we get so little for an All NBA player who was willing to re-sign in Toronto? But unless you really wanted to go down that path and continue to sort of fight from the middle, I understand why they would rebuild. I mean, we could just look at the results, but still, it's I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're right, man. Maybe they got to work some magic with Bruce Brown. Like, what realistically, like, what could you really get with Bruce Brown? Like, I think honestly, Tim Hardaway Jr. and a pick might actually be not terrible.
Oh my God! All right, we'll talk about this more on our like free agency show or something.
Goodness,
get something for Bruce Brown.
Didn't Bruce Brown tweet out something like, "Oh, it's
he said it's going to be an interesting week." Cowboy smiley emoji.
No, the funniest thing with Bruce Brown right now, he's like, "Well, I'm either gonna go to a winning team in free agency if the Raptors decline my option, or they're gonna pick up my $23 million player option and then trade me to a winning team." So like, he's chilling either way. You know what I mean?
No, he's definitely chilling, man. Speaking of OG, you know, kind of surprised at some of these initial reports because similar to Pascal with Indiana, you figured after the trade, OG and the Knicks would come to a deal. But OG is reportedly not thrilled with the Knicks' initial offers. And according to Jake Fisher at Yahoo, he said, quote, that some people also believe he isn't so thrilled about being the 4th option in New York.
Oh, brother.
And that's before Julius Randle is even back because he was injured for most of last season. So we heard similar things in Toronto. And again, like, I don't know. Like, I guess sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. If you hear it for a long time. Thoughts on this and thoughts on the dark web, you know, theories that, you know, the Raptors should use their cap room to bring OG back.
Bring OG back to do what? No, seriously.
To be the 4th option.
No, seriously. Let's say the Raptors got OG tomorrow. Like, are we going to win what? Like,
to teach Ochai Agbaji how to be the next OG.
No, it's fine. You know, it's funny because, like, there are always these reports around OG, and to some degree, like, I understand, like, you know, I think OG is probably a little bit more talented than just your standard 3-and-D player. he can do just a little bit more. Like, even look at his last game before he got injured, right? Finally with the Knicks. I think in game 5. The guy had like 26 points in the first half. Now, of course, we know that that's like a bit of an anomaly, but he can definitely do more. Like, he's not like your Danny Green type of 3-and-D, right? But like, yeah, ultimately, if he gets paid and he gets paid at a high rate, which this is going to be the biggest payday of his life coming up in the next week or so, then what's all the fuss? You know what I mean? Like, why are you clamoring to do more work, OG? Like, no, seriously, that was always my thing with OG. I'm just like, dude, as long as you get paid and you get appreciated, like, why do you need to do more work to earn the same money? But yeah, I think in terms of like the potential of him leaving New York, like, I just don't buy it at all. Again, his agent is the son of the president of the Knicks. Like, honestly, that's already shady enough. Like, as a Raptor fan, I'm like, damn, like, did he just get stolen from our franchise? Like, was he gonna go to New York regardless? And I know that the agent is not like so powerful that they can just entirely dictate the player's life, but like, clearly he's very happy in New York. Like, I caught up with OG a little bit after the Knicks played the Raptors, I think in late March, and I chatted a little bit with OG and all that kind of stuff. He was super happy in New York, man. Not to say that he was like, I'm so happy to be out of Toronto. Like, I think he's got a lot of love for Toronto, but like, he knew the situation was wrapping up, and like, his situation with New York is great. And guess what? It is great. Like, everybody loves him there. He's being credited as one of the huge reasons why they won. They kept seeing that record of like when OG's in the lineup, they were like 21-4 or something like that. Like, yeah, just take care of him. I think for the Knicks, like, obviously they would like probably a closer to a hometown discount, but like, there's going to be a lot of, demand for OG. And if like the Sixers are out there being like, hey, we'll pay him $40 million, then the Knicks basically have to say, yeah, OG, we'll pay you $40 million. But other than that, like, I don't know, man. OG, stop complaining about the extra work and all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, look, he's going to be the third option, fourth option sometimes. That happens. But if you get paid the max to be the fourth option, like, I don't hear Tobias Harris complaining. You know what I mean? And he's way better than Tobias Harris.
Well, Tobias got no right to complain about anything, man.
That's what I'm saying. There's not even any heat on OG whenever he's like, yeah, I want to do more. It's like, nah, OG, just chill, man. Just chill.
Tobias' contract's the reason why Philly has $60 million in cap space right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. All right, a couple of other quick ones here on the coaching.
Like, do you want OG to do more, like, offensively? Because I never really looked at it like that. No offense.
I think OG should just realize that, like, he is a great luxury to a winning team. And you're getting paid like a max player to be a luxury. Like, it's not like a diss towards you to say that you're a fourth option on offense. Like, that's the perfect role for him. And like, taking on the best defensive assignments, like you mentioned, you look at the Knicks record when they had OG. Like, the last thing I'd want OG to do, and I don't think he will, is like for him to go to like a losing environment where he gets more shots, gets a bigger role, and wastes like 2-3 years of his career before he realizes that this is the role for him. He's in a perfect situation in New York right now.
Yeah, and like, where else could he really go? Like, Philly? First off, if he goes to Philly, like, it's gonna start a war between New York and Philadelphia, man.
He should go to Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly. But if you go to Philly, like, you're gonna have the same usage. Like, it's gonna be the exact same. And
you're not gonna get the usage you want unless you go to a losing team. Like, that's just what
like,
it
where
is.
You going to Detroit? You're going to Detroit so you can
Charlotte.
Okay, Charlotte. Does Charlotte even have money like that? Damn.
I don't know, man. How much are they paying JT Thor? All right, coaching front. The Lakers finally did the thing that everybody said they were gonna do for weeks and signed JJ Redick to a new 4-year deal. Personally, this is great for Hello and Welcome because JJ's podcast with LeBron Mind the Game was constantly number 2 on the charts.
Word.
Shannon Sharp, please don't bring Kendrick on your pod. And also Old Man and the 3, I believe, I guess will be on hiatus for a little bit. So what you make of the hiring of JJ Redick, and do you think his head assistants will be Tate Alter and Jason Gallagher?
Oh, man.
Deep cut.
First off, I thought you were gonna say this is a win because we don't have to hear him on the broadcast anymore, man. I was not a fan. I was just not a fan.
I didn't wake up with hate in my blood today.
Oh, I did.
I woke up with durian in my blood.
Okay, that's weird. You should see a doctor. That's diabetes. That's Asian diabetes.
Yeah, that's a weird case, man.
I got durian flowing through my veins, and I know it smelled crazy in there. Okay, no, I mean, I think this is absolutely a win because, like, I'm not gonna
Wait,
lie to
a
you.
win
like,
for who?
for general NBA fans.
Oh, okay.
No, because here's the thing, like JJ on the pod was good. Like when you choose to go to the pod and when you like that type of content, which clearly was very popular and really well consumed, that was good. Obviously, losing that kind of sucks for the general NBA fan.
Yeah,
but
sorry,
like,
Joe Wolf.
Whenever he got on the broadcast or whenever he went on First Take and he was trying to be basically the Stringer Bell of NBA media, right? He's trying to change the game.
He went on First Take and he said, "I'm not doing First Take."
Yeah,
while
no.
he's on First Take.
Why don't we talk about Zion Williamson as the primary ball handler and how that's changed? Like,
why do I have to choose between Kareem and Magic? It's Tuesday in February.
That's what I'm saying. This guy was Stringer Bell, and like also, at a certain point, I'm like, all right, man, like we get it. You studied microeconomics. Like, congratulations. Like, can we just focus on the task at hand, please? And we talked so much about how the finals broadcast was in the first place. I think it's also a win for NBA fans because, like, if it doesn't pan out, right, like, there's just gonna be great fodder. Like the Lakers always set themselves up for the biggest fail, no matter what. Like, it's not like you've hired JJ and all of a sudden he's going to bring in revolutionary tactics or he's going to bring such togetherness to the group that all of a sudden Anthony Davis is going to play every single game and never get injured, or that he's going to be super involved on offense and not a little bit more up and down, or that it's going to reverse LeBron's aging, or that it's going to add more depth to the Lakers, which is what they ultimately needed, or it's going to make them play like phenomenal defense because D'Lo and Austin Reeves are all of a sudden going to become stoppers. Like, the Lakers are the Lakers. You know what I mean? Like, the situation is there. Like, they're a pretty good team, but they're in a very stacked West. And quite frankly, like, I don't see how a coach takes them from the level that they're currently at to above a team like OKC, who are young and adding pieces like Caruso, right? Or like a Denver Nuggets, who clearly have the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic and a really good supporting cast around him. Or the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are super young. Timberwolves might make some trades just to shed some salary and stuff like that. Maybe Cat's gone, but ultimately they got Anthony Edwards and they have a really good situation going on there. Or the Dallas Mavericks, who are basically what the Lakers are trying to go for, but younger and better, right? So I don't know. I mean, yeah, and if it doesn't work out, it's just gonna fall back on LeBron. It's gonna fall back on JJ. Like, it is hilarious that they did a whole pod together and they're like, "Oh, guess what? He's my head coach." Like,
yeah, the Lakers are more interesting as a storyline than they are as a basketball team, and I feel like that's just like the space that they're in right now. Yeah, you're right. Like, I'm trying to think of who's the next former player, retired player, who's gonna try to grab a superstar to do a podcast with, as a way to just like sneakily do like a job interview. Like, if you're trying to coach Steph Curry, like, is Jamal Crawford trying to set something up? Or something like that, you know what I mean? Because right after this announcement, Patrick Beverly, another podcaster, tweeted, JJ really just opened the door. And everyone's like, not for you.
Open the door for what?
For podcasters to coach.
Okay, I mean, to be fair to JJ, like, it's not just podcaster to coach. Like, he's a former NBA to coach, which has happened quite a bit, right? Like, I know people are like,
you have to admit, Mind the Game like gave him that shortcut to access to LeBron, like talk about all the X's and O's. Like, that made such a huge difference.
Well, I mean, a lot of the comments and the jokes were like, "Wow, this is like an extended job interview," and like it kind of was.
It was.
Like, at least, if for nothing else, you've proven that you can engage the star player, in this case LeBron, in conversations about basketball tactics, and clearly they respected each other. But I mean, like, they worked together in one context. Now they're going to work together in a different context. We'll see how that goes. And honestly, my personal suspicion with JJ is that, like, he is kind of like, I'm the smartest guy in the room type of deal. Like, again, like, the Stringer Bell thing is truly like, he's a white Stringer Bell for NBA media. And I do wonder how that sort of like insistence and that sort of like, does he have the flexibility, I suppose, to again work with younger NBA players? I mean, I think that he's got a good chance of it. Like, I don't think that the Lakers changing head coaches is going to change too much. I think there's just going to be so much expectation to come out of it because it's the Lakers. That's all.
Well,
but yeah,
I'm
happy for the NBA broadcast though. Like, I'm excited to see what new broadcast they come up with because the finals just wasn't it.
Yeah, let's get legs in there, man. Tim Legler.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we need legs, man.
Okay.
And finally, we didn't mention off top that the Boston Celtics won their 18th championship this past week. Yeah, unfortunately, we were busy working on programs with Bobby Marks and Andrew Nemhart to be
that was
able
great,
to
man.
touch on these things.
Yeah.
So, we've got Jerome here with us as well as always. And I thought we would start, Will, with you before we wrap up this first segment. Let's each spend 60 seconds just saying something nice about the Celtics championship. So, Will, I'll throw it to you. You're on the clock.
I got to do a whole 60 seconds? That's a long time, man.
Yeah, we don't have to use the entire time.
Yeah, Jerome did ask me, do I have to
Okay.
use the entire
It's up to
60?
60 seconds, right?
Okay, maybe 60 together then, since we're all chiming in right now. So let's go around. Let's go around real quick.
Wow,
like
really something nice, huh?
Will, Jerome, me. Let's go around a circle
Okay.
here. Just throw
Okay.
out stuff that you're happy about for the Celtics.
Man.
You guys are really struggling.
The only thing I'm happy about is Jaylen Brown establishing that he's on the same level as Jason Tatum. That's it.
Oh, okay.
'Cause
So you're
I thought he
still
was
trying
actually
to
really impressive.
create some conflict.
No, I'm
from
not trying to
within.
create conflict. I think, why is it a controversy to say that Jason Tatum isn't like all that? Like, it's fine. He honestly had a really good game 5 as well, but like, no, the level that Jaylen Brown played at over the course of the whole entire playoffs, the fact that he took on the assignment to defend the best player on the other team, like, I'm happy that they actually recognize him as Finals MVP. That's all.
Nice. Jerome. Is this where you put in Chinese opera music in post?
No, we're not there yet. But
That's your cat, man.
it's haunted me since Thursday. So, I mean, I guess shout out Al Horford.
No, man.
No, no.
Who injured T.J. Ford many years
That's
ago?
right. And he tore
All
his
right,
pecs
fair
like
enough.
5 times.
Fair enough. I guess my one, but it's not even like Boston related. Just big. There was that photo of Jason Tatum with Deuce. It was a really good photo. It's more shout out Nathaniel Butler, who
Yeah,
captures
oh,
like
great,
all
shout-
the.
great photographer.
Shouts
Yeah.
to Nat Butler. We're gonna get Nat on the program
We
because
have
he has
to.
a new book coming out called Courtside: 40 Years of NBA Photography. That's coming out
Yeah.
in September, and he's been doing that since 40 years. So
Literally,
he's been doing it since like
I think almost
the 80s.
every iconic NBA photo that you've seen, like there's a
Hmm.
really good chance that was Nat Butler,
yeah, that's a
and
good
that's
call.
another one. Yeah.
I'm gonna shout out Boston Wulu, Suichi
Oh,
Terada
yeah.
of
He
Mass
was looking
Live.
sharp, man.
He
Put the
was
photo of
looking.
him at
He
the-
was
at the game.
looking just like you. I think you guys both got a haircut this week. And
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So we know what it's like to follow our team on a journey
Yeah.
to win the championship. Although I don't know if Suichi is like a stan of the Celtics. I think he's actually just a credible reporter.
Okay.
But there's
All right.
but you can see the joy of like following that journey, especially like
Yeah.
so many playoff runs in the last few years, and being able to like follow this team to the championship must
Wow.
have been like incredible. Yeah.
What a rewarding journey to go from the conference finals to the NBA finals. and winning. Great.
From the
So happy for
finals,
the team.
from the finals to the conference finals, back to the finals.
Yeah, the finals 2 years ago.
Cool. Wow. No, man. I thought you were gonna say next, man. He survived the Chris Humphries and Keith Bogan's era. Like,
But by the way, many years ago, I believe it was Tim Bontemps who proposed the question of whether you would want Giannis or Brad Stevens for the next 5 years. I believe this was in 2018. And I just feel like we should revisit this because if you
wait, was
took
this Bontemps or was this Chris Mannix?
it was
I
either
think I'm-
Chris Mannix or Tim Bontemps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please,
We're to confirm because
yeah, please. We're gonna confirm this so then only one of them is being thrown under the bus. No, this was a great theory, and I just want to revisit this because a lot of time at the time everybody was freaking out. Like, this is way too much love for the Boston media. Like, there's no way you would pick a coach. But if you had Brad Stevens in the last half decade versus if you had Giannis, you'd end up in the same number of championships. So I think the conversation is back on the table. Would you guys want Brad Stevens or Giannis for the next 5 years?
So I don't. So first off, it is Chris Mannix because apparently he tweeted, "You are the GM of an expansion team. You have your choice of any NBA player or Brad Stevens."
Okay, yeah, my bad.
Okay,
I think I saw
okay,
Bontemps
okay.
respond to it because Bontemps said it's an interesting question. Yeah. So for the next 5 years, are you guys taking Giannis or Brad Stevens?
Next 5 years from now, or going
Yeah,
back
from now.
retroactively?
Yeah, from now.
Okay.
How old is Giannis? The fact
Giannis
that
is
we gotta
approaching
ask is
30.
wild.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Approaching 30. Okay.
Yeah. And you can the Thanasis will be on any roster that you're building.
You know what? Here's the thing, right? Because, like, I think we maybe went through this a little bit in Toronto with Masai of, like, I think at one point you can go through old episodes of the Raptor show or Raptors Over Everything or whatever, right? And I've probably said something like, you know what, Masai is like more valuable to this franchise than like anybody else.
No,
'Cause
you don't
he made
understand.
all these decisions.
We did. Would you rather have Masai or Kawhi after Kawhi left?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're like, you know what? We kept the more valuable. of the two. No, because it's like, execs like, yes, you can make these home run swings, and like sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. Clearly, Brad Stevens has done a great job as an executive, but like. You end up looking silly, man. You always got to pick the player. Like, come on, man. We
just
actually
saying.
legit went through this with Masai, so yeah.
I'm taking Brad the next 5 years, man, and then we can.
I think.
And then we can.
Get
And
outta
then we
here,
can
man.
see. And then we can see in 5 years who has more rings, Brad or Giannis.
No one has made this a conversation except you, man. You know what? Maybe JJ was right. Maybe JJ Bell was right, man.
JJ Bell, Stringer Red. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna talk Team Canada.
There you go. You've been listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway.
All right, so Team Canada announced its training camp roster this week, Will, of 20 players, and wanted to go through with you to, predict what the 12-man roster might look like. But first of all, there's just a lot of hype based on this roster, and I think people have been anticipating this since last year's World Cup result. That this is going to be one of the top contending teams. Team USA is finally bringing their A team this year. Grant Hill, their general manager, flew around the country to hand out jerseys during the playoffs to all the players. But yeah, what's the excitement level for you just at first glance, looking at this roster, thinking about the Olympics that's coming up for this Team Canada squad?
I mean, first off, this is everything we ever wanted as a Canadian basketball fan, right? Like, you have finally got to a point where the organization is in a healthy enough place where they're able to bring out all of the best players in the country on the men's side, right? On the women's side, they haven't had that issue, but again, on the men's side, this has been the dominating topic. Can you get the best Canadians at the tournaments? And of course, them being in the Olympics is obviously a nice recruiting tool. I mean, like everybody's dream. Well, not everybody's dream, but a lot of people's dream is to play in the Olympics, and Canada gets this chance for the first time since 2000. But, like, yeah, I mean, you look at the roster, and it's like all the best Canadian players are on here. Like, you could maybe say, like, I don't even know, man. Like, who do they leave off here? Chris Boucher, like Corey Joseph.
Boucher, Brandon Clark was mentioned.
Brandon Clark. Yeah, like, honestly, there was no guarantee that any of those guys are even going to see the floor in a meaningful way, right? And so you look at the team. You got an MVP candidate in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is like the biggest reason out of all that Canada's in this position. Like, with all due respect to people who put on the organization or the rest of the team, or even a lot of the players who helped Canada, push them towards qualifying, even when the NBA season was on. So a lot of these NBA players couldn't go. But like Shai's the biggest reason why they're here. I mean, he was so good in the World Cup. And had just miraculous moments last year against Spain when they came back from double digits twice in the same game in the second half. Dylan Brooks is such a huge part of why they're here as well. He was awesome. Frustrated Luka got him to get ejected. Then Dylan Brooks put on a pair of boxing gloves, which is pretty hilarious. But, like, yeah, look at this. Shai, you got Jamal Murray, who's an NBA champion. Dylan Brooks. You got Andrew Nembhard, who we obviously just had on the program. He's going to be coming off the bench. Honestly, there's even a case for him to be a starter, in my opinion. He's that good to me. RJ Barrett, obviously has always been a stalwart for this program, and his dad obviously is the GM. But RJ is really coming into his own. We saw how much he succeeded in Toronto. You got your veterans, Kelly, Dwight Powell, guys like that. Andrew Wiggins is back on the roster. I don't know if he'll even start. Lou Dort, I don't think he's going to start, but having Lou Dort come off the bench like he did last summer is kind of an elite option to have as well. Like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like these are not just like good NBA players, but like they're players on winning programs that are contributing across the board, and they're all here. So I don't know, man. The roster is sick. Like the fact that they got to even take just 12 of these guys is crazy, because Canada might for the first time have like I don't know, a roster of like 11 NBA players, 12 NBA players. Like that could easily be done in this case.
Yeah, and like you didn't even mention two guys who are injured, but will be with them for training camp. Shaden Sharp and Benedict Mathurin, who if healthy could figure into the plans as well, not just for
Well,
these
they're
Olympics.
definitely going to be
but
on
long-term.
future teams.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, the roster is super stacked. You did mention, some guys were left off, and one of the guys, Corey Joseph, who has, represented Team Canada for a better part of like the past decade, was upset at not getting the training camp invite. He told Sportsnet's Michael Grange that, over the years he's put FIBA basketball and playing for my country over my NBA situation at the time, whether I was in a contract year or I had no contract, and said that it was a little disheartening to not even get an opportunity to compete. Rowan Barrett was asked about this at the Team Canada presser last week, and he just basically said, there's a tremendous amount of love here, but at the same time we're putting together the strongest possible roster we can. What do you think about this approach? Because I know for the longest time Canada has preached like having commitments from these guys, having a summer core, like having the continuity, and now obviously, like you mentioned, you just listed all the talent that is on this roster. Now suddenly guys like Corey, who even with an invite to camp probably wouldn't have made the team, is being squeezed out.
Yeah, I mean, the person preaching commitment, Nick Nurse, who also then left the program on the eve of the World Cup. Is that what you're talking about?
I get so scared when you say the person preaching commitment and you stare right at me.
No. Okay, that's something you got to take up with your therapist, with our therapist. But like, no, I mean seriously, like, yeah. Look, I, on one hand, I feel absolutely terrible for Corey because he has put in so many hours. Like in terms of the two people who are probably spent the most time amongst the NBA players, right? Because there's other guys like the Scrub Brothers, for example. They've been there a ton too. Melvin Ejim, right? Super loyal. And they did make it to training camp. But like Corey and Kelly are the two NBA players who have like consistently put so much time towards the national program. And of course, there's lots of opportunities. Like I remember once Canada had like a warm-up game against Nigeria at what was then Ryerson's gym, now TMU. And Kelly slipped on a wet spot and hurt his knee, and that actually affected his NBA season. It's stuff like that where it's like, okay, there is a sacrifice and there is a risk involved in terms of the players doing it. And so it's, no one can really question how much Corey has really put into this program. But I mean, at the same time, it's like there was no real path for Corey to even make the roster. And so at that point, why would you invite him to training camp? You know what I mean? And so I think for me personally, if I were running it, I probably would have just kept him around anyway. Like, it's a training camp roster. What's the difference between having 20 versus 21 players? Right? But like, still, I do see also from the management side, I was like, well, if we're not going to bring Corey, and he's not a young guy who are like, we're trying to get them some experience like Mathurin or Sharp, then why are we doing this? Because it sucks, but Corey really was around for like the worst parts of the program, and he doesn't get to see the fruits of it. But he also, I don't know, I mean, like, where would you have played him? Like, quite frankly, you got Shea, who's going to play like out of the 40 minutes in FIBA, probably going to play like 35 at point. Jamal's going to play a ton at the other guard position, right? Probably eat up the rest of the point guard minutes, probably all the shooting guard minutes. Andrew Nembhard is clearly a guy who's really, really good, so he's going to eat up a ton of the minutes too. Like, where are you even going to play Corey? So
yeah, this is just a tough situation. Like you mentioned, Corey was there.
Yeah. It's just
for
bad
so
timing,
long.
man.
Bad timing and all that stuff. So let's try to project what the 12-man roster is going to look like. Rowan did say that he's not guaranteeing any spots for players, even if they were on last year's World Cup team. But I would assume the core guys from that group would make it. So I've got core group of 7 guys from that team last year that I think are going to make it. So Shea, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort, RJ Barrett, Kelly Olynyk, Dwight Powell, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. What do you think about those 7 in terms of being maybe locks to get spots?
Well, those were the 7 players that were consistently in Jordi Fernandez's rotation last year at the World Cup. The 8th player there probably was going to be like a Kyle Alexander, who was their backup center for a lot of these games. And if you had to stretch it to 9, then probably Trey Bell-Haynes. But like, Yeah, I mean, ultimately, these were the 7 guys that coach trusted the most, and in some of these games, he only played like 6 of them anyway. So those 7 for sure for me are going to be going and staying on the roster. I think the question is sort of like, because they're going to the Olympics, there's more availability from players. Like, who else is going to be joining that group?
Right. So I'm adding Andrew Wiggins, Andrew Nemhard, and Jamal Murray to that group because those seem like the obvious names from the list that are also going to make the roster. So if we agree on those, that gives us 10 of the 12 spots.
Right.
And then the last 2 spots, I would think it will just be based on kind of positions that they need to fill. Like Zach Edey, I think, is a really great example. Like,
Right.
do you want a big, of that nature there? And then some of the other guys that you've mentioned, like Trey Bell Haynes, etc. Maybe you kind of just fill out the roster with a player like that. Are there any players from like the remaining kind of group after we pick the first 10 that you think is like you'd like to see in those final 2 spots?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of options you can really go with, right? Like, I think based on the 10 guys that we had, I think the one thing you would look at is Canada's really deep at guard, and they're pretty decently deep on the wings, right? Like, I would say it's just the size that you would want more of, right? And Kelly and Dwight Powell, neither of them are like, solid starting centers when you're talking about like at the very, very top levels, right? And so if you look at last year's run, Canada brought 4 bigs, right? It was Kelly, Dwight Powell, and then they also brought Zach Edey, who they rarely used, and then Kyle Alexander, who they actually used a decent amount. I think they probably will go in a similar direction in terms of just bringing at least one more big. Like, that's got to be, for me, at least one more big. Between Zach Edey and Kyle Alexander, I mean, I think Kyle is a better defensive player at this current moment, and Zach is definitely a better offensive player. Based on the rest of the roster, I think they probably need defense more than offense, but also you got to think about like the long term. Like, do you bring Zach Edey along for the experience? He's kind of been brought along for the experience a couple of times already. Like, this ain't the first time that, he would be, but ultimately I don't know if he would crack the rotation. I know people know Zach a lot more than Kyle, but I think Kyle actually is a better player in terms of just like in this current moment. So personally, I would probably make the hard cut and cut Zach if they don't bring 2 centers. Because, again, we're talking about 10 spots already, so only 2 more players. I would take Kyle Alexander as my 11th. And then it's a little bit tough because it's like you can go with the bigger forward like a Trey Lyles, who I suppose can play a little bit of center for you, but realistically, he's probably going to be more of a 4. He can stretch the floor a little bit. He hasn't really been around the program that much, but also at the same time, Jordy Fernandez has been coaching a lot as an assistant in Sacramento, so I'm sure he knows Trey quite a bit, and he knows what Trey can do. He's a decent player. I think he fits a lot of what Canada would potentially need. But you can also go with a more defensively oriented option. Like, I think O'Shea Brissett wouldn't be a terrible option here either. Or even a guy like Malvin Ejim, who, again, is somebody who has been super, super loyal and committed to the program. And I'm not saying you take him to the Olympics just because he's been super loyal, but I think there's a built-in experience aspect with Melvin, who, again, is also a pretty valuable defender. Like, you're going to have to make some really, really hard cuts here. Like, I mean, I feel bad because if it was a 14-man roster, this would be really easy. I'd be taking Kyle Alexander. I will be taking O'Shea Brissett. I would be taking Trey Lyles, and I'd be taking Zach Edey. But unfortunately, it's just 12. So out of those 2 more, I'd probably take Kyle Alexander, and I would take probably take Melvin Ejim, honestly, out of the 2 of them. I think maybe I'm just picking the older guys, but yeah, what about you? Like, because you know what I mean? It's not easy because you have 10 of the 12 spots spoken for already.
Yeah, I would bring Edey just because, I think about just even like teams like France with Wembayama or like other teams, like you just might, he's just like a break in case of emergency. And like you might for short spurts in a game be able to kind of utilize him under like the FIBA defensive rules. Like he could be an asset for you. Other than that, like to be honest, I'm not that picky because like I'm looking at the top 10 and it's like we're pretty stacked when it comes to guards, when it comes to wings. So outside of bringing like additional big guys, like I don't even know those final 2 spots, whoever you bring, like how much they're even going to play. Because the fact that you're adding...
Realistically, they're not going to play most times. Right?
Yeah.
Even out of these 10 guys, like some of them, like Nikhil, for example, is not guaranteed to play every single night.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even think that like Wiggins is guaranteed to play every single night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's like, I guess that's the other question for you. And I know this is the last question for you. And it's like, I know it'll depend game to game, but looking at this roster, if we assume these are like the top 10 guys, who is your closing five? Like, who do you like of building a closing five out of these 10?
Man, I think first off, Canada's probably going to close a lot of games playing small. So you probably would only see one of Kelly or Dwight Powell. I would think Kelly's on the floor if Canada is chasing the game, like if they're down, and Dwight Powell might be on the floor if they're up.
Yeah, Dwight will definitely have 4 fouls by then, because that's just what happens in FIBA.
Bro, Dwight Powell's only at the Olympic. I swear, every time he plays for Team Canada, he's just there to like wrestle like 7-footers.
You know how soccer players have like caps? This guy has fouls. He just has international fouls.
Yo, he's definitely Canada's all-time leader in fouls. I swear. But I would definitely have Shea on the floor.
Yeah.
I would definitely have Dylan on the floor. Dylan, again, like I know that there's jokes or whatever, but he was so good in last year's tournament. He was undeniably Canada's second best player last year. So I'm having those two, starting for those. Again, depending if you're up or down. If you're up and you're protecting the lead, I'd have Lou Dort in there. I think, honestly, I probably... It's weird to say I would have Andrew Nembhard in over Jamal, but I think it's another offense-defense situation. Realistically, Jamal's probably going to be on the floor regardless because he's got that status. But that's the thing. That's the only question I have is, like, are these players who are walking into the team going to be okay with coming off the bench or not playing in certain moments? Because Canada hasn't had that problem before.
Guys are going to be sitting.
Yeah, because last year, for example, like when they went to the World Cup, it's like, okay, they got these 7 NBA players, and in crunch time, 5 of these NBA players were on the floor, right? Like, and there weren't as many issues. Now you have so many players, so it's like you're probably gonna have to bench Wiggins. You're probably gonna have to bench one of these guys. Like Jamal's not guaranteed to play in crunch time. RJ, there you go. Like who's also been super committed. So that's where the strength of coaching is really have to come in, and the strength of the program is going to have to come in. But like again, like you're at the Olympics, like there's no other objective. Like when Team USA goes to the Olympics, like Dwayne Wade in his prime comes off the bench. So like, are honestly are any of you guys on the roster even as good as Dwayne Wade? So like you also have to put the team first and foremost, and be okay with whatever it is, because the bigger task here is that Canada has such a good chance here to go for a medal. And even possibly challenge for gold, depending on how things line up and everything goes perfect. Like, you know, I don't want to be hearing any sort of dissension of like, oh, Wiggins isn't super happy with his role or whatever. Like, dude, we're talking about like 2 months where you're representing for the country. Get together and do whatever you need to get the job done, you know? So.
Yeah, no, love the patriotism from you, man. And go Oilers tonight, you know? Finish the job. Let's go Oiler Nation.
We love the nation, man.
Yeah, so that does it for us for this episode. We are going to be coming back at you. I believe you'll hear us on Thursday, first thing Thursday, because the draft is happening on Wednesday night, day 1 of the draft. So we'll be recording after the Raptors make their 19th selection. So we'll have draft coverage for you, couple episodes this week covering the 19th and the 31st pick. Again, the city is buzzing right now.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's not about the damn Blue Jays. That's for sure, man. My boy, Eder Kalefa, man, hitting leadoff now. Does that matter?
First of all, he hit 2 home runs on Saturday. So
okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
did they win?
No, they did not. They're on a 5-game. This is like in The Wire. The guy's like, did he have arms? Did he have legs? Did he win?
Did he have wins? No, that wasn't us. No, Jays are down. All right, TFC's down bad. I saw a 3-0 loss to New England Revolution. You know,
hey, Argos beat the Elks 39-36.
What are the Elks?
They got the Elks out of here. Yeah.
Wait, no, seriously, who are the Elks?
It's the Edmonton Elks.
Oh, they changed the name, right? Oh, okay,
they
right. Okay.
Yeah,
got you.
Come on.
So still double E, but in a different way now.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, okay. So, I'm just saying, like, sports is in a bad spot, you know? The Euros, no more 9 a.m. games. They're all going to be at, like, 3 p.m. now. So, it's tough, man. That's why everyone's turning in to Hello and Welcome, so they know what's going to happen with the 19th pick, the 31st pick, whatever undrafted player the Raptors end up signing.
Yo, we got you covered, man.
We got you covered for all of that. So, appreciate everybody. If you haven't already, go check out the Andrew Nembhard interview. That was super fun. You know, get to hear Alex say "shorty" for the first time in his life. Yeah. Before we sign up, how often do you say "shorty" in your day-to-day life?
I have never used that term in my life. I'm turning 40 this year. Like anytime I use the word aura on Twitter, people yell at me. Yeah, they're like, "You're 35." Yeah. I'm like, "No, I'm 39." Yeah, so I feel like I'm reaching that stage where I can't use these terms. But you know, this was a question that you had prepped that you wanted Andrew to answer. And you know, we just had to step up and do some teamwork and ask. And I was pleasantly surprised that he had taken a shorty to CNE. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Everyone who's had a shorty before in Toronto has taken their shorty to CNE. Like,
I guess I have. I guess this is ancient times, but I guess like 20 years ago, I probably did take a shorty to CNE. Yeah. Back when CNE was $2. Yeah.
Oh, word? That's
we
crazy.
just randomly don't have a science center now. Anyways.
Yeah. What did you call shorties 20 years ago, man? What was your...
I don't know, man. Like my boo. Yeah.
Oh, you took your boo. Holy.
My boo-ski?
This guy took Alicia Keys, my boo.
My main squeeze.
Oh, y'all were squeezing back then?
Please, Jerome, end this recording.
Oh my God, man! They're
Read
probably
the
matching
outro.
Sean John, baby fat or Fat Farm suits.
Listening to Sean Desmond.
Oh man, shout out to Toronto legend Sean Desmond. Anyway, well, yeah, I mean, it was just proud of us for how we handled that interview. That was a lot of fun, And
no, shouts to you. Yeah. All the work behind the scenes and.
What did I do, man? I was chilling, man.
You set it up.
You guys did
shouts and huge shout outs to Jerome for setting that all up. And yeah, I guess we're just rambling now, but we did just finish 1 month of Hello and Welcome, so shouts to you guys
right.
as well.
Let us know your feedback. Actually, this is what I want. Actually, people write into info@helloandwelcomepod. Is that the email?
Yes, that is, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Write us emails.
info@helloandwelcome.show. Yeah.
Oh, helloandwelcome.show. There you go. See, yeah. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Just like let us know your feedback on like how you're liking the show, how you're liking the format. Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty proud of it, but also at the same time, I just want to be able to I don't know, just egotistically take in more feedback to see how much people are enjoying it. But even if you're not enjoying it, just let us know. You know what I mean? Like, let us know what we can do. And yeah, I mean, I can't believe it's only been 1 month, but very proud of us. Very proud that we got an NBA player on the show so quickly, and yeah, very proud that Alex had shorty live and in public. So with that, we got to wrap up. Thanks everyone for listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway, and we'll check in with you later this week.